Sham Sharadava Nalalidaloka Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Sasaradava Nalalidaloka Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Tasya kalyanam gunanavasya Bande Guru Shri Charunaravinam Tasya kalyanam gunanavasya Bande Guru Shri Charunaravinam Bande Guru Shri Charunaravinam Bande Guru Shri Charunaravinam Bande Guru Shri Charunaravinam Bande Guru Shri Mahaprabhu ki Tana Nitya Gita Baditra Madhyam Manasura Seno Mahaprabhu ki Tananitya Gita Baditra Madhyam Manasura Seno Ramancha Kampasru Taranga Bhajo Bande Guru Shri Charunaravinam Tana Nityanana Shingaratanama Diramajanado Shri Vigraha Tana Nityanana Joktasya Bhaktamsa Niyunjatopi Bande Guru Shri Charunaravinam Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasado Satmana Truptan Hari Bhakta Sangha Kritva Trupti Bhajato Shadeva Bande Guru Shri Charunaravinam Shiradhikama Bhavayara Para Madhura Leela Guna Rupa Namnam Shri Radhika Madhura Leela Guna Rupa Namnam Satichanasva Dhanalopasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Nikunja Yuno Ratikeli Siddhai Jajali Vir Jukti Apekshaniya Nikunda Tatrati Dacha Ativalabhasya Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Dharitvena Samastasashri Rukta Tathava Dhataiva Sadvi Into Prabodha Priyaeva Tasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasada Yasya Prasada Nagati Kutopi Yasya Prasada Yasya Prasada Nagati Kutopi Jayam Stubam Tasya Yasatin Sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunavadi Vachatadesha Tarine Saraswati Deve Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Rama Krishna Jadavaya Namaha Jadavaya Madhavaya Kesavaya Namaha Hare Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhattaraguna Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasaraguna Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo Haribo Jai Vishwapara Paramahansa Prabhajaka Acharya Astottara Sarasi Shimari's Divine Grace Abhacharavina Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Pratishta Bhiviti Samstapaka Acharya Vaishnava Siromani Parit Pavana Srila Prabhupada Ji Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Gaurya Guru Varga Patita Udhari Ki Jai Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhattara Gunata Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Guna Satguru Swami Prabhu Ki Jai Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ji Ki Jai अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जाय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार शिवासरि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय परम दयाल से नित्यानंद प्रभु की प्रेम नाम संकीर्तन एक जना का प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम से सच्चिदानंद स्मरण गौरंग से चैतन्य महाप्रभु गौर हरि महावर नवतार की गोलोकेर प्रमदान हरि नाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की जुग धर्म हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की Brihadanga Transcendental Book Distribution Seva Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopina Radha Kun Syama Kun Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrajabhum Vrindavan Mathurdham Ki Jai Their Lordship Shri Shri Radha Nila Madhava Ki Jai Shri Mayapur Navadvip Eka Chakradham Ki Jai Paramakaruna Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Jai Shri Purushottam Ketra Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Shri Jagannath Swami Baladev Prabhu Smaspadra Devi Sudarshan Chakra Bhagavan Ki Jai Jaganga Mai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Shri Mathura Dharani Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Nitai Gaurari Pramanande All glories to the Assembly of Bodies All glories to the Assembly of Bodies All glories to the Assembly of Bodies All glories, all glories, all glory to Shri Shri Guru Shri Gauranga
नरसिंहाया नमस्ते नरसिंहाया प्रहलादला ददायिने हिरण्यकाशीपूर्वशः शिलाटङ्कनकालये तो नरसिंहा परतो नरसिंहा
ito nisinga parato nisinga
यतो यतो यामि ततो नरसिंहा
jata jata jami tato nisinga
हे नरसिंहा हृदय नरसिंहा
Vayere singa hridaye nisinga
नरसिंहमदिं शरणं पर्पदे
Narasimha madishanam papare
तव कर कमलवरे नाकाम अद्भुत सिंहा दालिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गा केशवधीरता नरहरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे
Baba kara kamala vavi naka advutashi Dalita
हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गा
Isavadita Naravirupa Jagadisa Hare Jai Jagadisa Hare Jai Jagadisa
केशवधीरता नरहरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे
Jaya Kesavadita Naravirupa Jai Jagadisa Hare Jai Jagadisa Hare Jai Jagadisa
जयो लक्ष्मी नरसिंहा जयो लक्ष्मी नरसिंहा लक्ष्मी नरसिंहा जयो लक्ष्मी नरसिंहा
Lakshmi Narasimha Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha
जयो भक्त प्रहलाद भक्त प्रहलाद भक्त प्रहलाद जयो भक्त प्रहलाद
Jaya Bhakta Prahlad Bhakta Prahlad Bhakta Prahlad Jaya Prahlad
जयो जयो प्रभुपाद 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 जयो जयो प्रभुपाद
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada
जयो जयो गुरुदेव 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 जयो जयो गुरुदेव
Jai Jaya Gurudev 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 Jai Jaya Gurudev
लक्ष्मी नरसिम्हा भगवान की प्रहलाद महाराज की गौर प्रमाण
Hari Bol Shri Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavatai Namo Namaha. Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavatai Namo Namaha. Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavatai Namo Namaha. Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki.
Krishna Das
Ram.
Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sadai Nabhasi.
Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sadai Navasi.
Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sadai Nabhasi.
Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sadai Navasi.
Yani Kani Chapapani Brahma Hatyari Kani Cha Tani Tani Pranakshanti Pradakshinam Pare Pare.
Yani Kani Sapapani Brahmatari Kanisa Tani Tani Panasanti Pradakina Pade Pade.
Yani Kani Chapapani Brahma Hatyari Kani Cha Tani Tani Pranakshanti Pradakshinam Pare Pare.
Kani Kani Sapapani Brahmatari Kanisa Tani Tani Panasanti Pradakina Pade Pade.
Yani Kani Chapapani Brahma Hatyari Kani Cha Tani Tani Pranakshanti Pradakshinam Pare Pare.
Kani Kani Sapapani Brahmatari Kanisa Tani Tani Panasanti Pradakina Pade Pade.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Vrinda Devi.
Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Vrinda Devi. Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Vrinda Devi.
Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Vrinda Devi.
Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Vrinda Devi. Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Vrinda Devi.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol,
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol,
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura.
Hari Bol.
Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai.
Shri Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyai Ke Sava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Pradi Devi Satavatai Namo Namaha. Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyai Ke Sava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Pradi Devi Satavatai Namo Namaha. Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyai Ke Sava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Pradi Devi Satavatai Namo Namaha. Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki. Oh Tulasi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you has wishes fulfilled, bestow your mercy upon him, you make him resident of Vrindavan. My desire is that you also give me a residence in pleasure groves of Shri Vrindavan Dham. Thus within my vision, I would always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower carried damsels of Raj. Please give me the privilege of personal service and make me your own maid servant. This very fallen and lowly servant Krishna prays. May I always swim in love with Shri Radha and Govind. Shri Mati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna Kam ki. Namo Mahaprabhu Glory to the Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan moment is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because its praise raises the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we're always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govind. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies. There is not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names. But I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Once you chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself a lord and straw in his street, one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of all prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. Only want your girls that devote to service birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yes, some or rather have fallen in this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love, flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and will the hairs on my body stand on the end at the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm considering the moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I feel all vacant in the world and your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he should remain so. Even if some does me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me, he is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. Shri 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 Kastakam Ki. There are 10 offenses in the matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that must be avoided. They are as follows. 1. Blasphemy the body, to dedicate life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider names of demigods and Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, to be culturally independent of the name of Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. Blaspheme the Vedic literature or literatures and presumes by diversion. 5. Consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on strength with chanting the holy name of the Lord. 8. To consider chanting for Hare Krishna is one of the Vedas of fruitive activity, karma. 9. To describe the faithless person by the glories of the Lord. And 10. To have good faith in chanting the holy names, and to maintain material attachments, even for understanding so many instructions of this man. It was an offense to begin attentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve desired success. Krishna Prem. Now let us offer our respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnavas devoted to the Lord. They are just like desired trees. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for fallen conditioned souls.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Janmadhyasya yato naviyat itaratas jate swavigyaswarat. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adhikavaye Muyanti Yatsurayaha.
Tene Brahma Hridaya Adhikavaye Muyanti Yatsurayaha.
Tejo Varimidam Yata Vinimayo Yatrati Sargomasha.
Tejo Varimidam Yata Vinimayo Yatrati.
Damna Svena Sadanirastakuhakam Satyam Param Dimahi. O my Lord, Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva.
O my Lord, Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva.
O all-pervading personality Godhead.
O all-pervading personality
I
Godhead.
offer my respectful obeisance unto you.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto you.
I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth.
I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute
And the
truth.
primeval cause of all causes.
And the primeval cause of all causes.
The creation, sustenance, and destruction of manifested universes.
Of the creation, sustenance, destruction of manifested universe.
He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations.
He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations.
And he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him.
And he is independent because there is no other cause
It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji,
It is she who first imparted Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahma,
the original living being.
the original living being.
By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion,
By him, even the great sages, demigods are placed into illusion.
as one is bewildered by the illusory representations
As one is bewildered by the illusory representation
of water seen on fire or land seen on water.
of water seen on fire, of land seen on water.
Only because of him do the material universes,
Only because of him do the material universe,
temporarily manifested by the reaction to the three modes of nature,
temporarily manifested by the reaction, the three modes of
appear
nature,
factual although they are unreal.
appear fractal, although they
I
are
therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna,
I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna,
who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode,
who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode,
which is forever free from the illusory representations in the material world.
which is forever free from the illusory representation of the material world.
I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth.
I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth.
Dharma projita kaitravotra,
Dharma prajita kata
paramo nirmatsanam satam,
paramo nirmas-
vedyam vastavam atra vastu,
Vedyam vastavam astam-
shivadam tapatrayon mulanam,
Shivadam tapotrayamuranam-
Shrimad Bhagavate Mahamani Kute,
Shrimad Bhagavate Mahamani-
Kim Vapurir Ishwaraha,
Kim Raparirishvara-
Sadyo Hridi Avarudyate Tra,
Satyurudya Variriyati-
Kriti Behi Sususubhistakshana,
Kritivi Shushubhista- Kana-
completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated.
completely rejecting all religious activities which are material
This
motivated.
Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth,
This Bhagavad Purana propounds the highest
which
truth,
is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart.
which is understandable by those who are fully pure.
The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all.
The highest truth, the reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all.
Such truth uproots the threefold mysteries.
Such a truth uproot threefold
This
miseries.
beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in its maturity,
It's a beautiful Bhagavatam compared with the great sage Vyasadeva's maturity.
is sufficient in itself for God realization.
It's sufficient itself to God realization.
What is the need of any other scripture?
What is the need of the other
As
scripture?
soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam,
As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of
by
Bhagavatam,
this culture of knowledge,
by this culture,
the Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam,
Nigama kalpataror kalitam
sukhamukad amrita dravya samyatam,
Sukhamukad amrita dravya
pibata Bhagavatam rasam alayam,
Vibhata Bhagavatam Rasamayam
muhur aho raska bhuvibhavakaha.
Mura Hura Sika Bhuvibhavaka.
O expert and thoughtful man, relish Srimad Bhagavatam,
O expert and thoughtful man, relish Srimad
the
Bhagavatam,
mature fruit of the desire tree of Vedic literatures.
the mature fruit, the desired truth of Vedic literatures.
It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami.
It emanated from the lips of Shishubhadeva Goswami.
Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful.
Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful.
Although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all,
Although its nectarine juice was very relishable for all,
including liberated souls.
including liberated souls.
Shinvatam Swakata Krishna,
Bhantam Swakata Krishna,
Punya Shravana Kirtana,
Punya Shravana Kirtana,
Hridyantaksto Hi Abhadrani,
Divyantasto Hi
Vidunati Srihitsatam. To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures,
To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures,
or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita,
or to hear from it directly from the Bhagavad Gita.
it's a self-righteous activity.
It's the righteous.
And for one who hears about Krishna,
One who hears about
Lord Krishna is dwelling in everyone's heart,
Lord Krishna dwelling within everyone's heart,
acts as a best-wishing friend,
acts as the best wishing,
and purifies a devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him.
and purifies the voice constantly engaging in hearing him.
Nastapresu abhadresu
Nasta Prayeshwa Bhageshwa
nityam bhagavata sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Seva
bhagavati utamasloke
Bhagavati Uttama Sloke
bhaktir bhavati naistaki.
Bhakti Bhavati Naistaki.
In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge.
In this way, the word naturally develops Dharma and transcendental knowledge.
As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam
As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavad
and from the devotees,
and from the
he
devotee,
becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord.
it becomes fixed in devotional service of the Lord.
Tadarajastamo bhava
Tadarajastamo Bhava
kamalobhadayaschaye
Amalobha
Chita etar navidam stitvam sattve prasidati. By development of devotional service, one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus material lust and avarice are diminished. Evam prasanna manaso Bhagavat Bhakti Yogataha Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam Mukta Sangasya Jayate. When these impurities are wiped away, the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness, becomes enlivened by devotional service, and understands the science of God perfectly. Vidyate Hridaya Grantis Chidyante Sarva Samsaya Siyante Jasya Karmani Justa Evatmanishware. Thus Bhakti Yoga severs the hard knot of material affection and enables one to come at once to the stage of a samsayam samagram, understanding the Supreme Absolute Truth, Personality of Godhead. Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness can one understand the science of Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 1, Verse number 14. Tavapyitarhi Kauravya Saptaham Jivitavadihi Upakalpaya Tat Sarvam Tavat Yat Samparayikam. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj Parikshit, now your duration of life is limited to 7 more days. So during this time, you can perform all those rituals which are needed for the best purpose of your next life. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Sukadeva Goswami, after citing the example of Maharaja Katvanga, who prepared himself for the next life within a very short time, encouraged Maharaj Parikshit by saying that since he still had 7 days at his disposal, he could easily take advantage of the time to prepare himself for the next life. Indirectly, the Goswami told Maharaj Parikshit that he should take shelter of the sound representation of the Lord for the 7 days still remaining in the duration of his life, and thus get himself liberated. In other words, everyone can best prepare himself for the next life simply by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam as it was recited by Sukadeva Goswami to Maharaja Parikshit. The rituals are not formal, but there are also some favorable conditions which are required to be carried out as instructed hereafter. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So spiritual life is based, real spiritual life is based on principles, fundamental principles that one should follow and be reminded of regularly, so that one can increase the strictness of following as well as the quality of the following. Strictness is one thing, but quality is another thing. So the quality of chanting, the quality of hearing, and the regularity of doing these things, all this is part of sadhana bhakti. So Maharaj Parikshit was fortunate. He knew that he had only 7 days to live in that particular body. We're not that fortunate. We don't know whether we have 7 days or 7 minutes to live. So, therefore, a materialist lives every moment as if he's going to live for another 100 years. But the devotee lives every moment as if he's going to die the next moment. So that's the difference in the prioritizing of a devotee's time to the prioritizing of time for a materialist. Materialists will prioritize time, yes, but for sense gratification and for sustained sense gratification by earning a lot of money and so forth. But the devotee understands the precariousness of life. At any moment it could end. It's very easy to see the demise of the body due to accidents or other people's foolishness or disease or so many reasons. So therefore the devotee is awake to the fact of the impermanence of the body, and therefore sets aside significant amount of time also for understanding what the purpose of life is and how to achieve it. So Sukadeva Goswami tells Maharaj Parikshit that he should take shelter of the sound representation of the Lord for 7 days, still remaining in the duration of his life, and thus get himself liberated. Well, that's what we're doing every day, right? We're taking shelter of the sound representation of the Lord by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. In other words, everyone can best prepare himself for the next life simply by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, as it was recited by Sukadeva Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit. The rituals are not formal, but there are also some favorable conditions which are required to be carried out as instructed hereafter. So we're going to hear what those favorable conditions are for hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah, so there's a very nice verse in the 3rd canto, 25th chapter, 43rd verse, which says, Jnana Vairagya Yuktena Bhakti Yogena Yogina Shemaya Padamulam Me Pavisanti Akuto Bayam. So this is a very important verse. It says that the yogis, equipped with transcendental knowledge and renunciation, and engaged in devotional service for their eternal benefit, take shelter at my lotus feet, Krishna says, and since I am the Lord, they are thus eligible to enter into the kingdom of Godhead without fear. So this is a great verse, 3:25-43. So if we want to be liberated from the entanglement of birth and death in the material world and go back home, back to Godhead, then we become a real yogi, not the gymnastic yogi that twists his bottle like a pretzel and shows off different positions and breathing exercises and holding the nose and this thing and that thing. All gymnastics, basically. But there's a reason for that. The first-class yogis don't do that. They don't engage in hatha yoga. First-class yogis engage in bhakti yoga, or devotion to the Lord. And that's described in the Bhagavad Gita, where it says that first-class yogis, yoginam apisarvesam madgatanantaratmana shadavam vajate yogam. It says that those yogis who are constantly thinking of me and constantly engaged in my devotional service with great determination and affection, they are the best of all yogis. So that is the definition of a real yogi, not the gymnastic yogi, and not the jnana yogi. Although those may be steps to attain bhakti, but one can go to bhakti directly. Only those people who are very much attached to the material body are attracted to the gymnastic yoga. And because the whole goal of the gymnastic yoga is eventually to control the mind and take it away from preoccupation on the body to focusing it on Krishna. But of course, the yoga instructors are not so clear about that goal. And therefore they say, well, if you do yoga, you can increase your sex life, or if you do yoga, you'll be healthier, and you can bring calm to your mind by meditating on the nothingness, or the light, or the tip of your nose. So they're all material goals, peace and being free of anxiety by meditating, and increasing your sense gratification by having a strong, stout body. So, but here it says, Yoginam apisarve samadgatanantaratmanan shadavam bhajate yomam same yukta tamo matak. Krishna says, and of all yogis, the one with great faith, who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me, he is the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. So Prabhupada is saying that these are real yogis, and because they understand that constantly thinking of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the goal of yoga. So, and anyone who engages in devotional service, right away, very quickly, they develop knowledge and renunciation. Vasudevi Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Jnaniyat Yasavarakam Jnanam Chayad Ahaitukam. And it's causeless. There's no particular reason or logical or rational reason why they automatically develop knowledge and renunciation, other than the fact that they're constantly hearing and chanting. So even the most illiterate person can become knowledgeable and renounced by engaging in devotional service. This is something that's exceptional about Bhakti Yoga that's not there anywhere else. So it's not possible that yogis, or real yogis, as we just described, can be without knowledge and renunciation. And that's why it says, ahaitukhi, it's without reason, they come to this point. Why is that? So, because of their constant engagement in devotional service. And part of that constant engagement is constantly hearing Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So, then Krishna guarantees this. He says, Te samsatta yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayantite. For those who serve me with love and devotion, who are always focusing their mind on me, who are always engaged in my service, I give them the knowledge by which they come to me. So this is not academic knowledge. This is realized knowledge coming directly from Krishna, just like Krishna says to Brahma that he reveals this knowledge from the heart. So Krishna is situated in our heart as Paramatma. Paramatma is the source of all knowledge for the living entity. And when one serves the Lord sincerely and is focusing the mind on the Lord, then they receive knowledge from the heart. This is, of course, something mystical, but it's a fact. And they do not have to really study. They simply have to hear and serve regularly and chant. So even if a person is completely illiterate, the transcendental knowledge of the scriptures are revealed to such a person. And anyone who has full faith, Yasya Devi Para Bhaktir Tata Devi Katitahi Artak Prakasante Mahatmanaha. Anyone who has perfect faith in Guru and Krishna, all the imports of the Vedic knowledge are revealed to such a person. So there are many verses saying that by engaging sincerely in devotional service, Krishna endows the sincere devotee with knowledge and renunciation. So one does not have to seek the knowledge separately, like trying to get a PhD in Sanskrit or something like that, or Asian studies. One simply has to engage in devotional service sincerely in the association of devotees. So unless one engaged in devotional service, they cannot enter into the spiritual world. Even if they are impersonalists, or if they are jnanis, or if they are yogis doing the gymnastic yoga, whatever. Without devotional service, they cannot attain Brahman, they cannot attain Paramatma, and they cannot attain the spiritual world. So why? Because Krishna specifically says that bhakti yoga is the only way. Bhakta mam abhijananti yavanyaschasmi tatvato. So I can only be achieved through bhakti yoga, in no other way. Okay, so those yogis who are equipped with transcendental knowledge and renunciation and engaged in devotional service for their eternal benefit, they take shelter of my lotus feet, and since I am the Lord, they are thus eligible to enter into the kingdom of Godhead without fear. So, being without fear is extremely important. Everyone is fearful in the material world. And without fear means akuto bayam. But in the material world, all we experience is bayam, is fear. So nobody is safe here. And at any moment, life can be finished. That's a fact. Like, for example, just 2 years ago, this mother in Skagit Valley took her young son, I think he was maybe 3 or 4 years old, to a playground that was on the bank of the Skagit River. And there were other mothers and other kids there, and the mother got into a discussion with another mother, and for just a minute or two took her eyes off her son. And then when she looked back to keep her eyes on her son, he wasn't there. And she looked around and didn't see him. Now, that playground happens to be on the bank of the Skagit River. And in those few minutes that she was talking to another lady and was not watching her son, he ran to the edge of the river and fell in it and drowned. And then a day or two later, they fished his body out downstream. So in just a few minutes, there was a tragedy. Or sometimes when a child begins to walk, and there's let's say a 2-story building, and the child goes toward the stairs and falls down the stairs and can die or get seriously injured. So these things are happening all the time, every day, and and they're tragedies. Therefore, one has to always be vigilant with young children, because there's so many things that can go wrong, even in a house. Even in a house, because you have electric plugs, you might have a gas range or an electric range. There's so many different things in the house that are potentially dangerous. There's Clorox, there's pennies that children sometimes swallow. So there's danger in every step. Padam padam yat vipadam nate sam. That's the nature of this world. And because of that, there are no guarantees of safety. And then it's also said in the Shastra that the world is a dangerous place. So how do we deal with this? How do we come to the state of being without fear? That can only take place if we take shelter of Krishna and Krishna's devotees, and this constant hearing about the nature of the soul, which is eternal. As it says in Bhagavad Gita, the soul is eternal. It cannot be dried, it cannot be wet, it cannot die, it cannot be wounded. First of all, you can't even see the soul, it's so small. It's 1/10,000th the tip of a hair. So how can you kill such a thing? And besides that, it's said that it's eternal. So these are qualities of the soul that we have to imbibe and be sure of. Otherwise, we will always be fearful in this lifetime. Therefore it says, Najayate mriyate va kadachin, for the soul is neither birth nor death at any time. He's not slain when the body is slain. And then before that it says, Yam hina vyatyanti te purusham purushar sabha samaduka sukam dhiram somrtavaya kalpate. O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. So this state of not being disturbed, not being fearful, not being anxious, that can only be achieved when we're sure that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we're sure that we're part and parcel of Krishna, and that our soul is eternal. So, as nobody can avoid death, because death is sure, because our soul is eternal, but our body is not eternal. So as long as we remain attached to the body, we'll be fearful and anxious. But as soon as we understand that I'm not this body, that fear and anxiety begins to go away. And the fear of death also goes away, because one knows that I cannot die. It's only this temporary body that dies. So those people who believe the words of Krishna, so Krishna says, that my devotee will never perish. So those are promises that Krishna makes. So the devotee therefore becomes akutambayam, without fear. And therefore the devotee is safe in all situations, because the devotee is completely dependent on the mercy of God. As long as there's no security, as long as there's precarity in one's life due to material attachments, then one is struggling for existence. One is in the struggle for existence. There's no security, and everyone's struggling for security. But how is that possible in a place that is called Martya Loka? That's the description of the material world. It's a place of death, old age, disease, wars, and things like that. So this foolishness to have security artificially through material means only engenders more anxiety. And such persons who believe in this fool's gold, this fool's paradise on earth, they're called mudas, low-class people who work like beasts of burden, like the donkey, but actually for naught, because everything they accumulate is going to be lost at the moment of death. And there's no security during life. So Krishna says, Malaksastan Indriyani Karsati, that this material world is full of this struggle for existence. But a person who understands that they have an eternal relationship with Krishna, that they're part and parcel of the Lord, and that the Lord promises them that He will protect them. So therefore, they do not have to be always harassed by this bhayam. So Krishna says that Sridam Sarvabhutanam, He's the friend of all living entities. Bhuktaram Yagatapasam Sarvalokam Maheshwara. Sridam Sarvabhutanam Yajgatva Santim Richati. Only that person who understands that Krishna, three things: that Krishna is the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices, that Krishna is the ultimate proprietor of everything, and Krishna is the best friend of the living entity. Only that person who knows this and believes this attains peace and is confident that they can properly execute Krishna consciousness in this life and go back to Godhead, or at least live with the Godhead at all moments of their life, whether it's in the material world or the spiritual world. So Krishna is the friend of all living entities, not only of the human beings, but of all living entities, the plants, the birds, the insects, the aquatics, the reptiles, the mammals, human beings, demigods. So you cannot say that Krishna is Hindu, because he doesn't say he's Hindu. There's nowhere in the Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam where Krishna says, I am a Hindu. He never says Jai Hind. You see? He says, I am the seed-giving father of all living entities. And I am in the heart of every living entity. Right? He doesn't say, I'm only in the heart of the Hindus, not the Muslims. No. He is the father of all living entities. And he's the protector also of all living entities. Right? And he's the supplier and maintainer of all living entities. So there's no such thing as the Hindu God. That's nonsense. And we have to realize that. So when he says, Sarvadharmam Prityaja Mami comes to the number, he's talking about everybody. He's not just talking about the Hindus. He's talking about everyone. All living entities, without any exception. Sarva Bhutanam. Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam. This is the real position of Krishna. So by giving up Krishna, and right now most of us, most people in the world have given up Krishna, but the Krishna's devotees are canvassing. They're going out into public and talking about Krishna, and they're chanting Krishna's holy names. They're trying to give out books about Krishna. So that's what our business is. Please come to Krishna. That's what our real purpose is. But most people will not come because they've forgotten Krishna and rejected Krishna in many ways. So this is their position. Therefore, they're always fearful. And oftentimes I make the point that Maya is on our side. Maya is not on the side of the demons. She's making the demons live in anxiety, suffering, just like Kamsa was always in anxiety, and he was, in a sense, Krishna consciousness, because he was always thinking about Krishna, but in a negative way. And he was always in anxiety that Krishna is going to kill him, you see. So, yeah, everyone's in anxiety. Therefore, they get life insurance, and they get car insurance, and they get house insurance, and they get dog insurance, and they get cell phone insurance, and they get this insurance and that insurance. Insurance, right? It's supposed to give you surety that you're protected in case of all types of accidents, until the accident happens. And then they say, well, you didn't read this little clause that was in the contract. The flooding due to a tsunami is not covered. What? I didn't know that. Well, you didn't read the fine print, right? That's why they say the devil is in the details. So when you get these insurance contracts, the insurance agent said, just sign, it's okay, you're completely protected, But then when you have an accident or something goes wrong, you say, this is not covered and that's not covered, and basically you're not covered. You're covered with dirt in a grave, but not your house, not your car, not your dog. So these are the problems that people are faced with. And therefore, Bhayam Dvitiya Binavesita Syat. That is, that people, due to the dualities of life, they're always fearful. And that is the symptom of material life. So, and it's caused by forgetfulness of Krishna. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to help people remember Krishna, and they're trying to forget Krishna. And that is their misfortune. But it shouldn't be our misfortune. Therefore, Krishna says that Sarva Yonisu, that Kaunteya, he's the seed-giving father of all living entities. And therefore, the fearful condition of life is an artificial thing. It's created only by our forgetfulness of Krishna. As soon as you remember Krishna and know your relationship with Krishna, that fearfulness will go away. And so there's this verse in the Bhagavatam, which is 7.5.5, which says, Sada samudvigna diyam asad grahat. It's spoken by Prahlad Maharaj. Any person who has accepted a temporary body and is attached to a temporary household life is an anxiety because of falling in a deep well of suffering. So what is that deep well? Under Kupam, this dark, deep well of material attachments in the material world. So, therefore, therefore it's said in the Vedas, Asatomam Sadgama, go from the darkness to the light. What's the light? The light of Krishna consciousness. As Krishna says, that he lights up with the lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So this darkness born of ignorance is due to asat, associating with asat, with things that are not permanent, and identifying with them, like the material body, like the temporary family relationships, like objects, clothing, car, jewelry, and properties, and so forth. So, if a person actually wants to be fearless, abhayam sattvasam sudhir, it's said in Bhagavad Gita, if you want to come out of this fearfulness, then you have to take shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. And therefore Krishna is begging. He's actually begging us. Because we're all sons and daughters of Krishna, we have an intimate relationship with him, right, eternally. But because we've given him up and we forgot him, we're suffering unnecessarily. Krishna is our best friend. Krishna is our maintainer. Krishna is the be-all and end-all of all things, the beginning, the middle, and the end. So, therefore, he says, Sarvadharmam prityaja mami kam saranam vraja. Just surrender unto me. And therefore, you have nothing to fear, nothing to hesitate for, and nothing to doubt. So, aham tvam sarvapapebhyo moksisyami ma suchaha. I will free you from this, from all the reactions of your sins, and then you can engage in my devotional service. Yesham tvantagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva mohanir mukta bhajantimam dhritarataha. You can engage in my devotional service with firm determination, be free of all the dualities and confusion of life, and then you can come back to me. So this is the message of Krishna. However, if we ignore this, then tata dehantara praptir, we are going to remain in the cycle of birth and death, going from one body to another, and always being fearful and thinking that we are insecure. So that's called Maya. Maya is exactly that: fearfulness, insecurity, and but even though we're fearful and insecure, we believe that the life insurance and the car insurance, all these things are going to protect us. And they're not going to protect us. We think they're going to protect us. It's only temporary. Now you might say, well, are you saying we shouldn't buy house insurance? No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that you shouldn't think that you're safe just because you have house insurance. That's what I'm saying. And that's what it's saying here. So Maya is thinking, I am secure because I have this insurance, that insurance, because I have a gun, because I have this or that. Not really. And many times people buy guns and even practice shooting them. But oftentimes when it comes to actually killing a person, they freeze. And then the bad guys, they take the gun away from them and shoot them with the same gun that they bought to protect themselves. See? Because practicing shooting a gun is one thing, but actually pointing the gun at a living being and pulling the trigger is something else. Not everybody has the courage to do that. You have to become relatively insensitive to be able to pull the trigger to kill a human being. You know, it requires training. You know, that's why they train people that go in the army. They train them psychologically and physically to be able to pull that trigger without any remorse and without hesitation. And you only have a few seconds. When you're on a battlefield, you only have a few seconds to make a decision. Or when a lot of policemen also, they only have a few seconds to make a decision to pull a trigger. Sometimes not even that much time. So sometimes it's just second nature that they pull the trigger and kill someone. So if we actually want to be secure, then we have to take to this bhakti yoga. And in other words, jnana vairagya yuktena. We connect to God through knowledge and renunciation. So that's why it says jnana vairagya yuktena bhakti yogena yogina. We connect to Krishna because of the service. We develop knowledge and renunciation, and we develop confidence that I can live in this life. I know that Krishna is going to protect me because I'm following the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness. There's no reason for me to be fearful or in anxiety. And as long as I follow strictly the instructions of Guru and Krishna. So that is called real yoga. So as soon as we focus our mind on Krishna, that's bhakti yoga. And we can do it 24 hours a day because bhakti yoga is actually easy. It's fun. Raja Vidya Raja Guyam. It's the king of all knowledge. It's the most secret of all secrets. Raja Vidya Raja Guyam. Pavitam idam uttamam. It's above, this knowledge is above all ignorance. It's completely pure. Pavitam idam uttamam. Pratyaksavagamam dharmam. It gives direct, it's the perfection of spirituality because it gives direct perception of who you are in relation to Krishna, in relation to the material world, and how to deal with the material world by engaging everything material in the service of Krishna. And then susakam kartam avyayam, it's full of pleasure and it's eternal. So that is the real nature of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is Raja Vidya, the supreme absolute truth spoken by the Lord himself to his dear devotee Arjuna. So one cannot be a bhakti yogi without knowledge and vairagya, without knowledge and renunciation. But you don't have to separately endeavor for knowledge and renunciation. They come naturally with by engaging in regulated devotional service. Therefore, Arjuna came to the realization by surrendering to Krishna and asking all his questions and patiently hearing the answers by Krishna. He came to the conclusion, Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram Paramam Bhavam, Purusham Sasvatam Divyam, Adidevam, Ajam Vibhu. Krishna, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna, you are the supreme destination of all striving devotees. Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram, you are completely pure. Pavitram Paramam Bhavam, and you are the supreme nature. The spiritual world is your supreme nature. It's eternal, full of bliss and knowledge. Purusham Sasvatam Divyam, and you are the undoubted Supreme Personality of Godhead. Adidevam, the original God, Adidevam, Ajam, you're never born, Vibhu, and you're the greatest of all. No one's equal to you or greater than you. So this is Arjuna's mature realization of who Krishna is. And we can come to that same conclusion ourselves, just by associating with devotees. And basically, what do we do? Yat karosi yad asnasi, yat johosi dadasi, yat tapasyasi konteya, tat kurusva madarpanam. Whatever we do, yet whatever we eat, whatever we give away or give in charity, and whatever austerities we perform, we should do it for Krishna. Mad arpanam. We should do it for Krishna, or as they say in South India, when they begin when they end a puja, they say Sarva Krishna Arpanam Astu. Say, everything should be given to Krishna. Right? Is that right? Yeah. Huh? Yes, Sarvam Krishna Arpanam Astu, may it be. So, that's what our goal should be also. We should give everything to Krishna. And there's a way of doing that without, being destitute. You accept a certain level of economic development, and anything above that you give to Krishna. And you maintain yourself, in a suitable way. And as your material responsibilities diminish, you downsize your needs. And then eventually you can live very, very simply and have a maximum time for serving Krishna. So that means, first of all, whatever responsibilities you've accepted, like children and their education, getting them married, all these things, okay, you do that, but one day that's going to be over, right? Unless you're like these movie stars, they get to be 85 years old and they get married with a 35-year-old woman. And then they have some more kids. After already having a whole bunch of kids and a whole bunch of wives, they get married again at 80 or 70. So that's nonsense, of course. So then Krishna says, Bahanam Janmanamante Gyanavam Prapadyante Vasudeva Saramiti Samahatma Sudurlabha, 7th chapter, 19th verse, Bhagavad Gita. It said, after many, many lifetimes, births and deaths of speculation and striving to understand what is Krishna, what is Maya, all these things, one may eventually come to the conclusion, Vasudeva Sarvamiti, Krishna, you are everything for me. Samahatma, he is a great Mahatma personality, Sudurlabha, and that person is very rare. So we see, although Krishna consciousness is easy, coming through all circumstances of life and maintaining Krishna consciousness throughout life is not a given if we lack proper association. Like if you avoid good association, and why would a person avoid good association? Because they're too critical. They want everything to be perfect. They themselves are not perfect, right? But they want everyone else to be perfect. And if they see some little discrepancy, immediately they say, now I have a reason to walk away from Krishna consciousness. So that perfectness mentality is actually Maya. What are they going to do when they go to the spiritual world and they see that the gopis put their dresses on backwards sometimes because they're so excited to see Krishna? Or they put the kumkum on their nose instead of on their eyes because they're so excited to see Krishna. So one time it said that Krishna got so excited by seeing Radharani that he tried to milk a bull. So what are they going to do when they see that in the spiritual world? You see? So this everything has to be perfect. There should be perfect love and affection. But every little detail has to be perfect. That's actually a materialistic desire. The perfectness is perfect love and devotion. That has to be perfect. So therefore, this jnana and vairagya, this knowledge and renunciation, is awakened simply by devotional service. When we say awaken, it means nitya siddha Krishna bhakti sadhya kabunai shavanadi sudha chitta karaye udai. That Krishna consciousness is naturally in our heart. We are all originally with Krishna. We're all originally Krishna consciousness. So it's nothing foreign. It's not a new thing. We've simply forgotten it. And by chanting Hare Krishna, we can bring back our memory of our being with Krishna. And then this natural Krishna consciousness that's in the heart from time immemorial awakens again. And we realize this is our real life. to be Krishna conscious. It's not to be ignorant of Krishna. That's an artificial thing. So Prabhupada says that this is an eternal fact of our eternal relationship with Krishna. But simply by forgetting it, we suffer. Therefore, suffering is unnecessary. It's artificial, because Anandamaya Bhyasat, the nature of the soul is to be eternally happy and secure. So, Tat sadumanye suravarya dehinam sada samudvigya diyam asat grahat. One should be free from fearlessness, always full of anxiety, and be free of being anxious. And that anxiety is only because we accept the temporary body as our identity, and the temporary bodily relationships we have as our family. But actually our family is Achyutagotra, Krishna's family. The material family in the material world is mostly a temporary thing, unless all the members of a family become Krishna conscious. Then it could turn eternal. Just like there are eternal couples in the spiritual world. There are eternal families in the spiritual world. But that would require everyone in the family, or at least husband and wife, or with the children becoming Krishna conscious. Then those relationships could be eternal. But as long as they're mundane, they're temporary, they're actually obstacles to making spiritual advancement. That doesn't mean we should artificially give up our responsibilities, but we should be simultaneously cultivating Krishna consciousness so we don't get carried away by those responsibilities and those temporary relationships. Okay. So this Krishna consciousness movement, Prabhupada says, is like this. When you preach, my dear sir, you are not this body. You are not American. You are not Indian. You are not Brahmana. You are not Sudra. You are not cat. You are not dog. You are part and parcel of Krishna. And that means that you should serve Krishna. This is Krishna consciousness. That's all. Very simple. It's not complicated. And Prabhupada says, this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's advice. Yare deka tarikaha Krishna upadesh amara agyaya. So he says, simply, whoever you meet, give them Krishna upadesh. Tell them about Krishna. And in this way, you become guru. Guru's business is to give the right information. You don't have to be some miracle person. You don't have to perform miracles. See, like for example, people go to, let's say, Sai Baba, right? Shridi Sai Baba or Pataputra Sai Baba. Why? Because they claim that they work miracles. But that's not what a guru is, working miracles, like producing some bhasma, some ashes, and you put the ashes in your house, all of a sudden you become rich. Or producing a gold ring or a gold necklace from their hand. And of course it came from their sleeve, right? But they have people saying, no, it was in his hand, you know. Yeah. So anyway, those type of miracles are useless. The real miracle is that the Adama becomes Uttama. The low-class person becomes first-class person by Krishna consciousness. That is the miracle. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Amara Agyaya Guruhana. You become a guru simply by speaking Krishna Upadesh to the people, right? But if we think, oh, I'm not a learned man, I don't have good education, I don't speak Sanskrit, I can't read it, how can I become guru? Lord Chaitanya says, no, it's very easy. Yari deka tarikaha Krishna upadesh amara agyaya hana tara e des. That wherever you are in this world, you just preach Krishna upadesh, Krishna's instructions, Bhagavad Gita, and just repeat it. You don't have to learn by memorizing. Simply repeat it. You know. So it says, my dear sir, you are not this body. You are wasting your time only under the concept of body. You are Krishna's. You become Krishna's servant. This is Krishna consciousness movement. My dear sir, you're not this body. You're not American. You're not Indian. You're not Brahmana, you're not Sudra, you're not cat, you are not dog. You are part and parcel of Krishna, and therefore simply serve Krishna. So that's it. Guru means you give right knowledge to people. Okay, we'll stop right there. Are there any questions? So you're all going to become gurus? Yes. Lord Chaitanya is ordering you to become guru. He says give the right knowledge, that's all. Haribol, all glories to Prabhupada.